They called me the nurse, like it excused them from ever learning my name. A small laugh the first time, a habit by the 10th, a verdict by the 100th, and every time it landed the way a cold stethoscope lands on bare skin, sharp, clinical, not meant to comfort. I told myself I'd grown a hide against that sound because long before Tom, I had been a wife once and then a widow, a hospice nurse who learned to fold sheets with one hand and hold a stranger's pulse with the other, a woman who knew exactly how love leaves a room, quiet, stubborn, without fanfare. Michael had died in his sleep at 37 with a book open on his chest and a cup of chamomile cooling on the nightstand, and the city kept moving like a river that doesn't notice who it drags. So I did what people like me do. I worked for 12s a week, then 5 when the unit was short, watched families show up late with flowers and apologies, watched names soften on tongues when guilt finally learned to speak. When I met Tom, I wasn't looking for anything but a good cup of coffee and a morning where my feet didn't ache. He was standing in a corridor outside his father's room with a vending machine sandwich and eyes that had not slept. He asked if the machine ever gave change. I told him it gave lessons. We laughed the way exhausted people laugh, open, grateful, unguarded, and coffee became dinner, became the first night I didn't feel like I was borrowing a life from someone else. Tom was kind in the specific ways that matter when you are no longer impressed by grand gestures. He listened past the end of sentences. He washed the pan without being asked. He remembered how I took my tea and how I didn't take pity. He had a family the town called good people. Old church money and good china and a kind of politeness that keeps score. His first wife had been a lawyer who sent holiday cards on thick paper and fixed typos in place cards without looking like she had. She died in a crash that broke the year clean in half and left his mother speaking of her in the present tense as if grammar could bargain with God. When Tom brought me home, I wore my best smile and a dress that didn't own me. His sister looked at my hands first, then my shoes, then my face. His brother's wife asked which hospital I worked at and whether I was a night nurse or the regular kind. His mother set a glass on a coaster before she offered it. "We try not to scratch the table," she murmured. I said, "Of course." She asked where I went to school and when I said community college because I had to keep the lights on while I learned to keep people alive. She nodded, polite, the way people nod when the answer confirmed the theory they hoped to confirm. The first nurse came at a Sunday roast when I stood to refill Tom's father's tea and his sister laughed. "She's always on duty, isn't she?" Everyone chuckled the way you do when a joke requires complicity. Tom looked at his hands. I looked at nobody and smiled. I had a lifetime of smiles for rooms like that. We married quiet, a courthouse and pie at the diner. I wore navy because white had never been my color. The church ladies sent a card with lilies on it and a note that said welcome. The family sent nothing at first. Then a text from his mother. "We hope you'll keep Tom on his routines." I typed and erased. I married him, not his schedule, 3 times and sent a heart instead, because there are hills you die on and hills you plant flowers, and I hadn't learned the landscape yet. The stroke arrived on a Tuesday that looked like it had promised to behave. One moment Tom was reaching for the sugar. The next the mug shattered. The kettle screamed. His mouth slid to one side and his right hand wouldn't obey. My body acted before my mind did. Call, airway, time, roll him, say his name like it's the rope between 2 cliffs, and the hospital where I had been everyone's helper became the place where the staff spoke to me like I was Tom's translator. The family arrived in shifts bringing casseroles for themselves and instructions for me. He should avoid salt. Keep him sitting upright. Don't let him overexert. I'll put that in the group chat, his sister said. I wasn't in the chat. Of course I wasn't in the chat. In the second week, when the neurologist said a discharge could happen if someone capable managed medications, therapy, meals, fall risk, transport, his mother turned to me as if to assign a task at committee. "You do this all the time," she said. "Not cruel, not kind, just efficient." I said yes, because vows are the opposite of efficient. We brought him home to a house that learned a new language, rails by the hall, a pillbox like a chessboard, picture cue cards on the fridge, hope taped to the wall with blue painter's tape because we didn't want to mark the paint. I bathed him, buttoned him, praised the quarter-inch he gained in each step like it was a mile. Some nights he cried over soup when the spoon felt like someone else's hand. Some nights I cried in the shower because nurses cry where the water disguises it. The family came Sundays on time with sweaters over their shoulders and concern folded like napkins. How's our patient? What's the blood pressure trend? Have you got his speech therapy homework? Sometimes I answered in percentages because numbers are armor. Sometimes I said, he walked 4 steps today, and they nodded like grading a paper. His sister started texting me suggestions, links to articles I had read a decade ago, a list of easy modifications for caregivers. She underlined caregiver twice. I told myself she didn't mean harm even when harm arrived. They brought a framed photo of him with his first wife and set it on the piano. For inspiration, his mother said, we try to keep her spirit in the room. The first time I asked to take a family picture with me in it, his brother said, let's do the originals first, and by the time the originals were done it was time for dessert. I noticed the small things first. The way his mother called every night at 9 and asked, not, how are you too, but have you administered his meds on schedule? The way his sister rearranged my pantry for efficiency and labeled shelves like a Pinterest tutorial. The way his brother sent me an Excel with color coding and an invitation to update daily. The way they CC'd each other and not me on an email to his doctor asking for a second opinion on a plan I had co-signed in person. The way the front porch drop-offs included low-sodium snacks with receipts attached, in case. The way they offered to hire a nurse to give you relief, emphasis deliberate, as if a paycheck buys respect. As if I hadn't been sleeping upright with an ear tuned to his breathing for months. We had small good days, too, unphotographed. Tom saying Anna clean for the first time with the shy pride of a child at a recital. Tom walking without the cane from the porch to the mailbox while I trailed. Hands extended but not touching because the triumph was his. Tom sketching the ugly little oak across the street and insisting it looked like courage if you squinted. We ate French toast for dinner, and I let the powdered sugar end up on his nose. We kissed with the gentleness of people who know exactly how fragile a body is. Then came the first Thanksgiving after the stroke. They insisted on hosting. You shouldn't have to cook, his mother said in that tone that turns generosity into supervision. We arrived with pie I baked too sweet on purpose, because love is sugar when the year has been salt. The mantel displayed 12 photos of Tom and a woman I never met, and not one of him learning to stand. His sister sat him beside her and motioned me to the end of the table. Easier for you to get up if he needs anything, she murmured. I laughed a little, and it sounded like a chipped plate. During the toast she said, to Tom's recovery and the angels who watch over him, and looked at me in a way that mistook me for a composite noun. After dinner I stood at the sink for 20 minutes, pretending the dishes required a level of attention only I owned, because if I sat I might say something that would break too much. On the drive home Tom squeezed my hand and whispered, you shouldn't have to keep being brave in their house. I said, I'm not brave, I'm polite, and we both knew which is harder. Winter stretched long. His mother called to offer a live-in aid again. You can supervise, she said. You do that so well. I said no because love without the work is a charity project for the giver and a theft for the receiver. I found a note on our fridge in his sister's tidy script. Please don't let him overexert. I threw it away, and it reappeared a week later laminated. I laughed until I scared myself. Spring delivered small resurrections. Tom took longer walks. The tremor faded. His speech sharpened. One afternoon he read a page aloud, slow but whole. I clapped like a ridiculous person, and he bowed from the chair and said, Stop crying, nurse. The only time the word arrived from his mouth, and it landed as a joke because he had also written wife on the back of my hand with his fingertip. The family did not adjust. Coldness hardens into ritual if you let it. Their group chat arranged a welcome back dinner for the day he walked a block without rest, formal invite. Start time precise, dress code, smart casual. I wore the navy dress again like armor and baked the pie again like a peace flag. The living room smelled like lemon cleaner and history. I noticed a new photo on the piano, Tom in rehab smiling grimly at a parallel bar alone, and a place card at the table that read Anna, and they asked him questions he couldn't process fast. then looked to me for translation, and then corrected my answers. His mother turned her chair to face him and said, "We are so thankful you had someone to manage your care," and offered me a tight smile meant for a staff appreciation luncheon. And sometimes you don't choose the moment you stop being polite. Sometimes it chooses you. It wasn't the worst thing they had said. It was simply the last straw pretending to be a bridge. My voice surprised me by how even it was when I said, "He is not a project and I am not contract labor. I am his wife." His sister laughed, the small, brittle laugh of people who assume the room agrees with them, of course, dear. But the nursing is what you're best at. Tom's hand found mine under the table and shook with anger he hadn't spent on walking. I said, "I married a man, not a chart." And stood, set my napkin down, looked at each of them and added, "And I'm done auditioning for a role I never wanted." His mother said there was no need to raise my voice, which is a thing people say when their temperature is the only one that counts. I said, "You're right, there's no need," turned to Tom and asked, "Home?" He nodded once, proud. We left the pie on the counter like evidence we had tried. I waited for guilt to chase us down the driveway. It didn't. It missed the turn and got lost. At home the house felt like it exhaled. Tom wrote me a note in careful letters that said, "To my wife, not my nurse," and I tacked it above the calendar where medicine lives. His mother called the next day. I let it ring. Then came a text from his sister. "Sorry if we upset you. We were only being grateful." Then a letter in his mother's proper stationery. "We didn't know how to include you." I folded it into the drawer where expired coupons go and closed it softly. The absence of their Sundays made a sound like rain you can finally hear because the television is off. Life after them didn't turn cinematic, it turned ordinary in the way survival does. We made our own routine. Saturday market for bruised peaches the farmer put aside for me. Sunday lake with coffee and paper cups. Weekday evenings where Tom drew the ugly oak and I learned to like its stubborn shape. He went back to teaching 2 afternoons a week. His students pretended not to notice the slight drag in his right foot because he pretended not to notice theirs. I returned to nights on the unit 3 days and clinic 2. I stopped composing updates in my head just in case someone asked, because no one did, and that felt like mercy. Every so often the town would deliver a reminder of the old world. Rosa at the post office saying his mother had asked if we'd attend the church fundraiser for family. Buddy at the hardware asking if I wanted him to talk to Everett, because small towns are puzzle boxes and someone always knows a piece. I told them we were fine. And we were, in the way people are when they reduce the number of rooms they have to perform in. One summer storm the power died, and we played cards by candlelight and laughed at how smug the candles looked. Tom drew a heart on the table with condensation from his glass and said, "It's nice not being graded." I said, "It's nice being seen," which is a line that should be carved into places rings can't reach. Fall brought an invitation disguised as an emergency. His mother fainted at church, and the family text thread lit like a Christmas tree I wasn't on. His sister called my phone twice, then 3, left voicemails that said, "We need you," without irony. Tom listened and looked at me and said, "You don't owe them the parts of you they refuse to learn how to love." We sent flowers and a note that said, "Wishing you rest." We didn't go. Winter brought the legal version of apology, an email from his brother asking for our updated financial participation in his mother's long-term care planning. A spreadsheet attached with columns labeled responsible party and notes. My name nowhere except in the formulae that made the numbers work. I answered with one line, "Please remove me from future correspondence," and blocked the thread. The piece that followed was not triumphant. It was simply clean. When our anniversary arrived, Tom handed me an envelope with handwriting that still leaned too hard on the left side of letters. Inside, a line, "No one else gets to name you again." I taped it beside the first note. The wall above our bed, a small museum of the right kind of paper. Sometimes people ask whether it was worth it to cut off a family that meant well, and I don't answer in essays anymore. I answer with our mornings, the way he says Anna in full, the way I make 2 sweet French toast, the way the house sounds when no one is assessing it. If there is a lesson, it isn't complicated. It's a sentence simple enough to live by. You can care for someone and still not respect them. You can thank someone and still refuse to see them. But you cannot call me the nurse and expect me to keep bringing the pie. The last time I saw his mother was in the grocery aisle by the tea. She reached for chamomile and stopped when she recognized me. Her mouth readied a sentence that started with dear and ended with because. I smiled the way you do when you tell a patient there will be a small pinch, and said, I hope you're well. Her eyes filled with something that looked like regret and something that looked like habit. She said, You were very good to Tom. I nodded, I am, and moved on because grammar matters. In the years since, no holiday card arrived with our names on it, and no chair at their table wanted me, but the chair at our table does. And on some nights when the unit is short and the world is long, I come home to find Tom has set one plate and a sticky note that says saved you the good peach, and it is more than enough. If you listen closely to the life we built, you can hear the quiet click of a door locking from the inside, not to keep anyone out, but to keep us in, the two of us choosing the only language that ever mattered here, wife, husband, please, thank you, sorry, yes, stay. They called me the nurse until the day I put down the tray and picked up my name, and when the echo of that room finally faded, the house began to sound like itself again.